Okay, I am here with Mr. Jeremy Cordon. How are you doing today, sir?
I'm doing all right. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, man, it's a pleasure. I actually heard about Goldbacks a few years ago, talking to Justin O'Donnell had told me about them out of New Hampshire, and I was like, that's interesting. Let me look into this, see what this is all about. So, you are the inventor of the Goldback. Is that a proper way of saying it?
I guess I don't usually call myself that, but I suppose I'm the founder.
The founder. Okay. All right. So explain a little bit about what the Goldback is to for those that aren't aware of what it is.
Sure. So the Goldback is 1/1000th of an ounce of gold. It's the smallest mass-produced bullion product in the entire world, my knowledge, and it's designed to be used like currency or money. So you have a layer of gold between two layers of polymer that really protect it well, and we're able to put out measurable um, counterfeit resistant forms of gold that people can use.
Yeah, I like it because I remember whenever Glenn Beck was advertising a product that looked similar to a credit card, and it was a little chunk of gold, and you could break off a piece and buy stuff with it. And I was like, I don't know, that doesn't seem like what people would want to deal with. And what I like about the Goldback is it looks like a bill, a standard dollar bill or whatever, but you can tell it's made of gold and has gold woven through
I'm told they look like Willy Wonka tickets.
it.
So
Yeah,
that's if someone's trying to visualize one of these things, it took us a while to name it, because we really wanted to convey the idea of what these looked like with the name of the thing,
right,
right? And we ended up with Goldback 'cause it's kind of like greenback, but it's gold, right? So it's
right.
like, it's probably the only compound word I could have picked to kind of conjure up the image we're aiming for as far as that goes. But you mentioned those credit card things that Glenn Beck promoted, and it really boils down to, why some people are buying gold. I'd say that at least half the people that buy gold, if you push them, the reason is something along the lines of, well, I own gold just in case.
Mm,
Like, just in case of what? Oh, I mean, the what if the North Koreans, blow up our electrical grid, or with an EMP, or what if the Fed starts printing money so fast, our currency fails, or what if we get in a war, what if the communists, I mean, you name it. um but it looks like currency failure. Their $100 bills aren't buying things anymore, so they want to have gold just in case of that,
mm.
right? Because gold has value. Yeah, if you flee to South America or somewhere else, you can still get something for that, even if you can't get something for your $100 bills, right?
Right.
But here's the dark side of that. And I think, yeah, you're better off with gold than $100 bills. But the next step is you're wandering outside of your house. Presumably, you need to get something that you forgot. Maybe you didn't get a generator or some food, or whatever you need to get, and you're trading with a $2,000 1 ounce gold coin that it can't be verified as a counterfeit free, because all your metal detector, your little Sigma machines might not work if someone happened to have one, and those aren't common to own anyway.
Right.
So how does somebody even believe you have a $2,000 gold coin? It's not just a fake. Or better yet, even if they believed it was real, what on earth are you going to buy for that kind of value? Right? I mean, like, what do they
Hmm.
have that's worth 2 grand to you? Assuming they had something and you had a way to pay for it. It's too valuable. And I think that's what the kind of the Volcombi bars were trying to address is, hey, you can, and you're just in case, you can, break off these chips, and you can barter with those. And that's better, for this. The Goldback takes it to another level, because we've got multiple denominations. There's a one, those things are worth like $4, it's thousandth of an ounce. We have a five, the five has 5 times as much gold in it, it costs 5 times as much, it's like $20.
Mm.
It goes all the way up to a 50. People are using Goldbacks today to barter for vehicles and property. Yeah, people are using Goldbacks to buy small things like a cup of coffee or a loaf of
Right.
bread, so it's able to do all the things that cash can do in kind of this barter situation. And even better, and we don't emphasize this enough, there's never been a fake Goldback. You don't have to have an expensive authenticator to know if your Goldback is real or not. You're talking about millions of dollars worth of equipment to make a Goldback, and it's a very high bar for a lot of these rinky-dink counterfeiters.
Mm, absolutely. When whenever I first came across the idea of the Goldback, I think y'all were just doing the Utah Goldback. Now, from what understand, y'all have expanded some. So, what are y'all doing now?
When we just started the Goldback, my thought was we're making a local currency for Utah. This will be primarily bought and used in Utah because Utah has this law that allows that to happen. And what we found very quickly is that over 90% of Goldbacks sold outside of Utah. Now, people wanted them all over the place.
Right.
Now, even if 95% of Goldbacks are sold outside of Utah, it's still statistically significant that Utah was buying 5%. I mean, they're 1% of the population of the country.
Mm,
So if they're buying 5%, I mean, that they're buying 5 times as many Goldbacks as everybody else per capita. So, it is being used here, but the Goldback is really taken off all over the place. So we do have other states and they do have business networks, and they are, the Goldback is a series, I suppose, of local currencies in New Hampshire, Nevada, Utah, and now Wyoming. But, they're being sold on 3 different continents right now.
now, I know Texas had a while back had come up with its own like gold, like kind of safe reserve for emergency purposes. Are you working with the states, or is this something you're doing independently?
So Texas does have a repository.
There's
You're
the
right.
word. That's the word I was looking for that I couldn't
Yeah.
think of.
So we follow laws that have already been passed by states. The strength of doing that is we don't have to go through the legislative process to ask for special treatment or more rights that don't already exist. We're just following existing state laws. And there we had a really easy one in Utah and a really easy one in Wyoming. We're finding that there are state laws because Goldbacks are operating on a state law level
Mm.
that would work in virtually any state in the United States.
Yeah, because I know there are a lot of cities within the United States that have their own currencies.
Sure. Yeah.
And so it's like, all right, how are they skirting the laws? What are they doing to get past the Federal Reserve and the fiat currency that is currently operational within the United States? And if you can kind of model your currency around that, and this is something I've said several times, and I've talked to a lot of my friends that are really into cryptocurrency, and I want to kind of talk to you about that here in a minute. um about that, and their argument is, well, why just create a city-wide fiat? And what you've done is you've found a way to create a currency that is not only backed by something, it's made of that element that it is backed by.
Right. No, that's exactly it. To get to your point, there's been over 2,000 local currency projects in the United States over the last 100 or so years that I'm aware of.
Right.
A lot of them propped up during the Great Depression. Communities from time to time will decide to make local currencies to keep value within their community, right? They want the local businesses supporting each other. I think the reason why all of these local currencies, or the vast majority of them, end up failing is because you can't really use them outside of those communities. And people don't trust that if they hold on to them and save them for a long time, that business network will be there forever. It's like you're playing musical chairs. And people have argued, and you might argue that we're playing the same game with the dollar right now, where we're playing this giant game of musical chairs. When people stop accepting it, the game's over.
Hmm.
right? So I think the reason why the Goldback has, at least by the numbers that I've seen, become the most successful local currency in perhaps recent American history is because there's confidence that there's value in it independent of the business network. You can't go to zero on the Goldback.
Right. Well, that's kind of why I chuckled a while ago when you said that the U.S. government might print too much money. It's, well, huh? I don't know.
We're starting to feel it. We're starting to feel it.
So that's something that I know a lot of people that come from like more of the libertarian mindset have been saying for a long time. Is like
Sure.
you can't keep doing this. There's got to be something there, and they found a way to back the currency with force. Basically, is
Yeah.
what they did. And if you read Confessions of an Economic Hitman, I mean, it kind of lays it out for you. The reason that the fiat currency has the standard around the world that it has is because if they don't accept it, then the jackals come in, and then you
Yeah.
have to deal with the guns. Um, with the FTX scandal and what was it? BlockFi, I think it was that went bankrupt. Um, have y'all seen like an uptick in interest in the Goldback?
So we've been virtually sold out of Goldbacks for about 2.5 years. The big downside to Goldbacks is if you have a popular cryptocurrency, it can be $1 billion cryptocurrency overnight,
Mm,
right? Sure, I mean, why not? Like you just, even though the currency's finite, you can bump up the value of each token that's out there. Goldbacks, I have to actually make all these things,
right.
and I told you it's vacuum deposition. This is the technology that puts gold in your microchips, for like your computer or your cell phone or your car. It's it's extremely high end, and because of that, there's a bottleneck in terms of how much we can produce. We've been able to kind of get around that bottleneck by building out more factories and increasing production. But I can only make maybe $5 or $6 million worth of Goldbacks every month, and we can move everything that we make. So it's popular, but I can only advertise it and market it so much before everybody just sells out. So it's a problem. It's a challenge that we have. We have been getting people coming to us and commenting to answer your question, saying, "Hey, the reason I went into cryptocurrency is because I wanted to have a currency alternative. I wanted to have something else that wasn't dollars, and now I'm frustrated because I feel like it's kind of become this big casino where maybe it's up, maybe it's down, and I could triple my money, but I can also lose 80%.
Yeah.
You know, I want to have something that's more like money, right? And I feel like the Goldback fits that niche nicely in that you have something that you can trade privately, that you can fit in your wallet, and the transaction doesn't require the internet.
Yeah.
It's just I can hand it to you and be done.
Right.
Now there's pros and cons to that. It's harder for me to hand you one because you're far away from me. But if I'm doing a local currency transaction, which is what the Goldback is all about, it's a very cash-like transaction.
Yes. Well, and that's in today's day and age, that's a big deal, honestly. Especially for somebody like me. I live in like right outside of a small town. I don't live in a city. I'm not involved in the that city folk shit. But I look at it, I'm watching ESG as one of the things I've been like extremely focused on and watching. And what they're doing is like you look at the truckers protest, right? And these guys step out of line, they shut down their bank accounts, they shut down all the third party crypto traders. They can't access crypto. This is a currency, a backup that they could have used locally to be trading, with gold and doing it locally.
They could,
And
and you might argue that they also could have just used cash, right? Which they probably did, and I think that's why people like cash so much.
mm,
is because it gives you that independence. In fact, a lot of the same folks that I hear complaining the loudest about a cashless society don't like the Federal Reserve anyway. Isn't that ironic? Oh, don't take away our cash
Yeah.
that you're inflating away our value with, like it's kind of this,
Well, I think
because the
people
relationships
are,
could,
I think where you get that argument is people are more afraid of the CBDC than they are the cash.
right, because you're going from bad to worse.
Exactly.
But then you have to defend the bad. I was like, well, you're still dealing with the central bank's product either way, dude.
Yeah.
Um, and I guess what I'm proponing is, hey, you know what? What if you could just make a better form of cash that didn't inflate? How about that? Like let's how about we just move out of the abusive relationship altogether if that's how you feel about it?
Yeah. No, exactly. And that's something I've really been looking at whenever it comes to ESG is I talk to my parents all the time. I was like, they're putting these scores on your 401k. They're going to link this social credit system to you independently based upon where you're investing your money, where you're spending your money. They'll be able to take the money from your bank accounts. And so to have the Goldback as a backup, as an investment, that is a secure source, and to have something that has intrinsic value as well.
Sure. And I try to mm, pitch the Goldback as more of a alternative form of money than it is investment.
Mhm.
But even as an investment, Goldbacks compared to the dollar have doubled in value over the last 3 years.
Right.
So it's not like anyone's losing money on Goldbacks. They're not even losing on money on Goldbacks versus gold coins. And that was a surprise to me, even.
Well, the reason I would talk about it as an investment, it's only because people look at gold as an investment, period.
Well, what's the only thing you can do with gold? I mean, if you buy 100 gold coins, what is your only thing to do with them?
Store it.
Then what?
Well, I don't know. You make you have a conductor for electricity. So
Yeah, you could make your own extremely expensive conductor for electricity with
yeah.
100 ounces of gold.
So, but
And I've worked in precious metals for a long time. People are they're either gonna die with it, right? You're gonna store it until you're dead, and hopefully your kids can find it, and you didn't store it somewhere like in your sheetrock or in your television. Or I've got stories, man. I mean, like people loot this gold disappears sometimes,
oh, wow.
if your hiding spot's too good. So you can die with your gold, or you can sell it back for cash at some point.
Well, yeah, I think what most people think of whenever they start buying gold and they start buying precious metals in general is they're looking at a situation, like you said, in case, just
Yeah,
in case.
sure.
And
Well,
so it
sure.
gives you a currency that will retain its value if everything else fails.
But
And
when
a
that
lot of that
just
is because they've watched too many like sci-fi dystopian movies, a lot of
maybe,
places.
maybe, but I think even in the just in case scenario, most people envision taking those gold coins, turning them into whatever the currency is of the time. So if gold's worth $1,000 or $1 million an ounce,
Mm.
they're taking that ounce of gold and they're getting the $1 million.
Oh,
They're
okay. I see
not
what you're
trading
saying.
with the gold directly. That's my point. If
Yeah.
anything, their gold ownership was taking a break from inflation, because what's that $1 million going to be worth the next year? You know what I'm saying? Like it's um people aren't trading with the gold directly. And that's where the gold back is so different. The gold back is so different because what we're finding and what our retailers that sell the gold back are finding is that people that purchase gold backs, they're not coming back to get cash. They're staying in gold backs
Yeah.
because the point of buying gold backs wasn't to turn them back into cash. It was to actually use the gold itself to barter with in a way that's extremely uncommon for gold coins. And I'm sure the Volcombi bar guys see similar things because people are buying it with the intention of, okay, in my just in case scenario, this is barterable, this is fungible, this is usable.
Right. Yeah. You carry it with you as a insurance policy.
Correct.
And that, I mean, and again, that's one of the things that just really drives me crazy about the modern age is I watch and I'm watching people's bank accounts get shut down, and them being completely choked off from the monetary system, and these financial institutions suggesting that they must spend their money a certain way or invest their money a certain way, or they'll just be cut off, and or have the right speech, have the right political views, whatever it may be. It drives me crazy. It's like, this is not going to last. There's no way that the society, the financial institutions can last at this level. And I know a lot of people are investing in Bitcoin for that reason. And I think it's good to have a crypto alternative, because so much of our exchanges are done digitally and done online. But it's also good to have that physical presence in your hand that you can hand to somebody and say, hey, this is valuable, and you can see the value within it.
Right. And, I own both. I mean, my crypto hasn't done that great the last year, but um, but I get the impetus behind it. I think it's people that were seeking liberty that made cryptocurrency to begin with. So, I mean, I definitely see them filling different niches within the needs that exist.
You started off with a Goldback cryptocurrency, didn't you?
I did. We had a Goldback cryptocurrency, and I was so proud of it too. I mean, like, you won't believe it. I was more excited emotionally at the time for the success of that Goldback cryptocurrency than I was when I started Goldback. When I started Goldback, I probably by then I got tempered in terms of what my expectations should be starting a business. I was like, you get knocked on the head, you're less likely to, be as jazzed the next time. But we got a vault, and we set up a live stream in the vault. And the plan was to actually live stream the gold in the gold counting process, so anybody could audit the gold versus the blockchain. We were really proud of that. We spent a ton of money on it to get that going. And I thought, if people can just see the gold and know it's there in the vault, and that anyone can audit the blockchain versus the physical vault, then why wouldn't people do that? Right? So I went out and I went to trade shows and conventions, and I told people, I said, hey, you can see your gold. You can know it's there. You can trust that your gold is in the vault because you can see it. And you know what people told me?
They wanted it in their hands.
Well, yeah, how do I even know the vault's real? How do I know it's not just a, how do I know that you didn't rehypothesize the gold and that there's loans against it? Okay, fine. I trust you, Jeremy. I don't trust the government. They're going to roll into your vault with the tank. They're going to seize all the gold once it gets to a threatening size. And then all my tokens that are backed by gold will be worthless.
Yeah.
If you don't hold it, you don't own it. I probably heard some variation of that 100 times.
Yeah. Well, one of my really good friends is Mike Meharry, and he works with Peter Schiff, and he does a lot of his writing on Schiff Gold and stuff like that. Sure. And that, one of the things we talked about is getting involved in one of these like gold IRAs and putting the money in that. And so I own the paper that says I own this gold, but how do I know that gold is there? And sure. The difference between the physical ownership of the gold and the paper ownership of the gold is stark. Here we go with this. Man, I don't know what is going on with this internet. You there?
I'm here.
Yeah, my internet kicked me out again. I'm sitting here watching it constantly. So if I seem a little distracted, sure. I'm just watching this signal. We were having some clouds come through. I'm right on the Gulf Coast, so we were having some clouds come through a while ago. So every once in a while, it gets a little touchy on me.
Gotcha. Okay.
But yeah, it's that there's that mental block, and I think a lot of people have been burnt by some of these outlets that you own the paper that says you own the gold.
Well, what was the dollar? What was the dollar in 1970?
Right.
You
Exactly.
know, I mean, that was a mass societal event of, hey, you know that currency that's backed by gold? Sorry, we'll we'll temporarily suspend that for now.
Right. Exactly. Well, but this is part of that mindset that is kind of taken hold, and we see it moving forward. That kind of modern monetary theory, as long as it's accepted as a tax revenue, it has value. As long as the government acknowledges it as a currency, then there's value to it.
Yeah, I guess. You know, you can pay your taxes in it. You know, you can buy goods and services with it, but the value erodes over time,
Right.
right? And maybe it's, you know, 2% a year, maybe it's 5% a year, maybe this year is 10%, you know,
Mm,
and if you want to save long term, I mean, you're saving in that.
mm,
You know, I'll tell you, there's a community, it's a farming community out in Colorado, and it's a bunch of ranchers, and they all do business with each other all the time, and they move huge amounts of cash to each other, right? So it's just the same cash cycling in the same community all the time between the same, you know, 2 dozen people. Well, what happens to that community over time is the value of that cash they're trading with goes down.
mm.
So they're losing it. And it's easy to see when you kind of make a microcosm of it. But all these guys switched over to Goldbacks. And why wouldn't they?
Yeah.
That's a much better value for them, you know,
Exactly.
and that's a really good use case for, you know, where you can see people using and spending Goldbacks. And I
Do
have no idea how many Goldback transactions actually happen because they're private.
Right.
You know, I'd have no way to know.
Have you been in contact with businesses, small businesses in the Utah area, New Hampshire, Wyoming, about possibly taking the currency? Is this something that people are looking at?
So we something that we do to promote the Goldback as a local currency, especially in these states where the state's name is on the Goldback, is we go out and we find business owners that would like to accept gold as payment. Initially, I was hoping for like a 5 to 10% acceptance rate with business owners. We found that it's closer to a third to half of small business owners want payment in gold. In fact, they prefer it,
Mm,
which that surprised me, you know. Um, so we went out and we signed up nearly 300 businesses in Utah that want to be advertised as accepting Goldbacks as payment. So, you know, and these are, you know, we're talking car dealerships, you know, and contractors and plumbers and, you know, people that will take full payment in Goldbacks for goods and services.
mhm.
We have a hardware store right down the street, you know, and we got all our Christmas decorations this year and we paid gold for all of it. So I mean that's happening now. So Utah, we've got a few hundred businesses. You know, I want to say that we have close to 100 in New Hampshire. I'm not sure about Nevada. We've got, you know, maybe 50 to 100 in Wyoming. So, you know, and we're kind of testing it out, you know, and so far it looks like it's working out pretty well.
I know that's one of the issues that cryptocurrency has had, is getting people to accept it, like businesses,
Yeah,
because they're not familiar with it. A lot of your business owners are more closer to boomer age, and they're like,
sure.
I don't know how to use this. I don't know what this is.
Yeah,
What does it
what
mean?
are you gonna tell the cashier?
Right.
How do you know that the one they sent the Bitcoin to that you got it is every cashier going to have their own wallet? I mean, are you going to wait the 10 minutes or whatever for it to clear? I mean, like, what do you know, what does that even look like
Mm.
in terms of a point of sale item? And, you know, I'm sure there's point of sale solutions for that that they're working on. I
I know
think
there are
that,
companies like Uphold that are trying to work on stuff like that, which Uphold does a lot more,
sure.
lot of different stuff. And it's actually kind of a cool, I don't know if y'all work with them or not, but it's kind of a cool structure. You can go in with cash, like fiat, and you can buy foreign currencies, you can buy gold, you can buy silver, you can buy different cryptos, and it's all stored. You have a debit card or a credit card that you can swipe, and you can choose what currency you're using to pay for what.
Yeah,
It's kind of a
there's,
cool idea.
yeah, there's a couple services like that. I know like Glint is another one for gold that got invested in by Sprott. So,
Okay.
but that uses the existing credit card machines, whereas these businesses that I mentioned, you're actually going in with Goldbacks themselves. They're pulling up a calculator on goldback.com. They can calculate out how many Goldbacks you owe them, and you pay them in gold directly.
Right.
And there's no password, so you're not using a card that transacts back into cash. The business owner is actually accepting gold as payment.
How do you how do you plan on keeping up with demand? Because that seems like that would be really difficult. Because you've already
That's
said
my
that you can
biggest
only do so much.
that's my biggest problem. I mean, we're investing in another machine right now, so this will be the third machine that makes Goldbacks.
Mhm.
We're investing in training, more techs so we can work the existing machines around the clock, as opposed to, just one or two shifts. So, there's things that we can do. We are seeing a huge uptick in demand, and it's hard because, if I don't have enough Goldbacks, what happened one time, this is back in 2020, this is right after COVID started. People thought, oh, I need to have something just in case.
Mhm.
And people wanted to buy Goldbacks, right? So all the Goldbacks sold out from all the retailers. We didn't have any left because all of our back supplies got sold out too. And people were so desperate to get a hold of Goldbacks just to have something they could trade with that they were selling for close to $50 on eBay.
Mhm.
So,
I
because
remember
again,
looking at them around, it was 2020, 2020, 2021, and I was like, it was like um the $1, the single gold bag, it was selling, like you said, about $50. I was like, man, they're
yeah,
proud of this thing.
well, it's just I mean, who
Supply and
dictates the
demand.
value of a Goldback? It's
Right.
not me.
Yeah.
I thought it was me when I started out because apparently there was this, maybe there's a hole in my head, because if you make a currency, if you make any form of money, the value is determined by the market. And I think that's why Goldbacks have outperformed gold coins and gold bullion when, I didn't think they would. I thought, hey, these things have a premium on them. If anything, they'll underperform, but people will buy them anyway just to have some money. And they're overperforming because there's not enough, we can't make enough of them.
Yeah.
It's really interesting.
So are there plans, what are your plans to expand? Are there other states you're looking at?
Yeah, so we did announce South Dakota, so we're planning on South Dakota for 2023. We haven't announced any states after that, but we do have a few that are sponsored. My big challenge is releasing a new state. I have 5 new Goldbacks I have to keep track of
Mm.
from an inventory perspective after that indefinitely. So I'm not as gung ho about releasing states quickly.
Have you thought about doing just a generic goldback instead of like producing it per state? Maybe doing just a minimal amount, like per state, and then saying, okay, from now on it's just a generic goldback. Each state has 1,000 or 1,000,000 that's released with its
Sure.
state name on it and its logo, and then the rest of it's just a generic goldback.
There's 3 reasons why I think that would be a mistake. The
Okay.
first and biggest reason is a legal reason. I can't make a federal currency. I can make a local currency under state law. I can't make something that can operate in just any state as like a United States Goldback.
Gotcha.
That would be,
Gotcha.
I mean, I maybe I could get away with it. I think that'd be pushing it. I'm not comfortable with that. I mean, at that point, I'm dealing with federal law, and federal law, to my knowledge, doesn't really give me a clean way for that. They're basically saying, hey, it's the dollar unless asterisk the state says you can do something else. Like,
Gotcha.
okay, I'm going to follow the state then, but that means I'm aiming at the state.
Yeah.
Maybe there's another way. Maybe there's another lawyer that'll have a different explanation, but that's my understanding right now anyway.
Mm.
So that's one reason not to do it. The second reason is the one I already told you. I said that we initially with Utah thought they were just going to stay in Utah, but we found that Utahns were 5 to 10 times more likely per capita to buy the Utah than other people outside the state.
Hmm.
Do you know why? It's got their state's name on it. Why
Right.
wouldn't they buy that, right? I mean,
Yeah.
that's way more exciting. What state are you in, Tommy?
I'm in Texas.
Okay. How much more likely would you be to buy Goldbacks if they were Texas Goldbacks?
I'll be honest, I'll be trying to get one of all 50 states.
Probably. And there's people that want one of all 50 states, but if you had to buy a bunch and you wanted to have a bunch's money, what state do you want to be on there?
Yeah, I would have Texas and Louisiana because I'm right at the border of Louisiana as well.
There you go.
Because
Right?
I would be at least, it would at least sell to me as if they're going to accept it.
Right. People love seeing their state's name on Goldbacks. I can't tell you how excited people are in Wyoming. There's barely anybody there, man. I mean,
Yeah,
like
no, there's like
it's like a
500,000 people in that whole state. I'm a
yeah,
truck
it's like the
driver. I've been there quite a few
yeah,
times.
you've been through there. So, I mean, it is not dense. I mean, you've got a few towns, you've got like Casper and Cheyenne
Mhm. I think there's
and
more moose in that state than there are people.
yeah, there's probably more bison in that state than there are people. It's just there's not a lot of people. So, to have a Wyoming Goldback and it's all your state history and it's Wyoming Goldbacks, every coin store in Wyoming is selling Wyoming Goldbacks. They are
That's really
popular
cool.
there. People are excited to have them.
That's
They're
really cool.
super outperforming.
Yeah.
And I think we'll see the same thing in South Dakota. So if I went to a bigger state, if I went to Florida or Texas, again, I can't make enough. There's a reason why we're doing these smaller states first.
Right.
So, the excitement of celebrating state history and having a state-based local currency, it's a way bigger deal than if you had a generic Goldback. If I had a generic Goldback, it does not generate that same level of excitement. If anything, you're biting off more than you can chew.
Mm.
I can't make a network of tens of thousands of businesses all over the country. That's more than I could chew. It wouldn't even be taken seriously. That's my third point is if you bite off more than you can chew, you risk just being shelved as a novelty product.
That's
And
true.
I'll tell you this, that already happened. There was a United States Goldback. It wasn't called that. It was before my time, but the same manufacturing company, let me see if I got on me. I don't have it on me, but they did like a 10th gram product and a half gram product and a 1 gram product. And it was kind of this United States themed gold thing.
Mm.
And it was just perceived as a novelty, not as a currency.
That's fair.
Didn't come with a network or anything. And, I mean, even starting out the Goldback when it was brand new and it was still unproven in Utah, I had my first 30 or 40 businesses in Utah. There were people in Utah that were excited about it. There was a lot more that rolled their eyes. But if you lived in Texas, you could believe that there were people that were truly transacting and using Goldbacks as money in Utah.
Yeah.
Which is exciting. It's an idea, right?
Right.
And since then, it's blossomed into, I think, a little bit more than that, where we see a lot more sales volume. Where we're talking about, there's between 500,000 and 1 million people that own Goldbacks now. And the amount of people that have seen Goldbacks are, it's millions upon millions. They've only been out for a few years.
Mm-hmm.
So they're doing really well for that. As far as that goes, but you have to climb the credibility ladder, and it's easier to climb that credibility ladder when you're doing one small state first.
Gotcha. That makes
So
sense.
that's your
That
first
makes
one.
sense. No, I get your point there.
It's a good question. I don't know
I
if anyone's
look
ever
at
asked
it
me
and
that
I'm just
before.
like, man, if you what my thought was kind of like the 50-cent piece, right? Was like
Sure.
you had a a limited amount for each state, and then it was just the United States 50-cent piece. And that's kind of where my mind
Are you
was
thinking
going.
about the quarter, the quarters that they did?
No. Back in the 80s, they had the 50-cent pieces
Okay.
that were like collector's items.
I think I remember that.
But they were
I had a friend
like,
that had those.
but they're like valued like three or four times as much as you would pay for them, and they would cost you like $5 each. It's like,
I wonder what they cost now.
oh, I have no idea. And they did the same thing with like the silver dollar. They had the Susan B. Anthony and all these, special things. And so I was just thinking about all that they were printing up back in the day. They were it was really big in the 80s. When I was a kid, I remember seeing the commercials for them. So,
Okay.
So that was kind of my
I'm on
thought.
I'm on eBay looking for the Utah 50 cent piece because I've never heard of it, and all I can find is Goldbacks.
That's awesome. I don't know if they were, I don't know if they were advertised as the state, but they had the state seal on
Yeah,
them.
no, I remember Oregon had some, but I think that was like a like a bicentennial
Yeah,
celebration of statehood or
maybe
something
I'm
like
wrong.
that.
Maybe they didn't do all 50 states. Maybe
Yeah,
it was
I don't
just
know.
certain places.
You could be right.
Yeah. I was a kid, man. What do I know? So a lot of life has passed since then. Um, so when you look at the state of the United States fiat currency, does it give you hope for where the future of the gold back?
Um, you know, yes and no. I mean, working in precious metals, bad news tends to sell precious metal, but you never want to be in a place emotionally where you're kind of rooting for bad news.
Yeah.
I remember one of my partners that came on and said, they're talking about the election. They said, well, if Trump wins, that'd be great. But if Biden wins, that'll be great for business. And it's like, okay, you have to roll your eyes at that. But so I think that in a perfect world, we might not even need the gold back. I mean, if the dollar was just stable, if it was already backed by gold, everybody trusted it and everybody followed all the rules, gold back's a little redundant, maybe it's for third world countries where their central banks aren't trusted. But
Mhm.
again, perfect world, that's not an issue there either, right?
Right.
So because the currency, what backs any currency is trust.
Mm.
If people don't trust the dollar, they're going to look for alternatives, and that could be great for the gold back. It's sad that we're in a place where people don't trust the dollar.
Mm.
So it's hard for me to get too excited about any collapse of trust in currencies that we use.
Do you think maybe the if momentum catches, let's say inflation continues on the trajectory it's on, momentum catches on with the gold back. It's not great for the country, as you pointed out. Is it a situation that it would lead to a more Ron Paul approach to currency, though? That maybe the it would lead the citizens of the US looking and saying, wait, we have this kind of obscure goldback thing happening over here that is increasing in value constantly while the US dollar is constantly dropping. Could it balance it out and create a movement to push backing the fiat with gold once again?
Possibly. I'm actually not an advocate for returning to the gold standard as it was. And the reason why is because the gold standard at the best of times was the government force pegging three industrial metals together at a fixed ratio under penalty of death. Ron Paul admits this in one of his Liberty reports. I was listening to it. He knows. So it's 100 copper pennies is a silver dollar, and it's 20 silver dollars is a gold piece.
Mhm.
If anybody melts anything down, you get hung. Well, all our copper is in our electrical wiring now.
Right.
Our silver is in our electronics. 80% is used in industry. The only metal of the three that's not overwhelmingly used in industry is gold. It's like 10% for industry. And the other 90% is split between jewelry and investment. So you can use gold as money, but if you don't want to have a dollar bill that's made out of linen or paper or, cotton or whatever to be backed by gold, because again, if you break everybody's trust by unbacking it with gold, I don't think anybody will trust that system again. So the gold back is about having a system that necessitates a little less trust because you can have the gold in your hands yourself.
Mhm.
Now, if you're a central bank, and yeah, maybe it could be a grassroots move in the US to push for gold backs. I think something that's more likely is that foreign central banks will look at the gold back as a pilot and they'll say, hey, our job as a foreign central bank is to make a currency that people will use, because money is a technology, and without money, you can't really have a functioning society that's interdependent. And if people don't trust our fiat currency because it's garbage or because we abused it, most central banks have gold reserves.
Right.
Well, how do you employ those gold reserves? What if you could make something like a Goldback? There's already central banks doing that, by the way. That's not a fringe idea. If you go to Uzbekistan, they put gold into circulation. They're just doing it in the form of these crappy little bar things.
Mm.
So central banks are already trying to get people to use gold as money, but gold historically has been an extremely, I'm going to get hung for this. Gold has challenges as money without silver or copper because it's too valuable. It's easy to counterfeit,
Mm.
right?
Well,
If
yeah,
you wanted to buy a,
Gaddafi was also pushing for gold currencies before the US had their way with him.
before he ran into a demise.
So
Yeah, it's a yeah, I think they want you to back your oil with dollars, not gold,
yeah.
right? But if the bottom falls out of all fiat currencies all over the place, your humanity's in trouble. If you ran the central bank, Tommy,
Mm.
there's not like some lever in a room to go back to, gold, silver, copper. There's not even enough above ground silver to do it. Well, what the heck would you do if you were running the central bank? You got to make a money that people will use. What are you
Yeah.
going to make that people are going to trust? I mean, the central banks, I feel like, have painted themselves into a corner, and at least part of that's their fault, but part of it's not. In a changing world, do you really want all your silver to be caught up in money so you can't use it in industry, or all your
Mm.
copper? Is that
Yeah.
even ideal for
Well,
humanity?
and then you have what is that ore that they use in microchips that is only found in like China or whatever? You
I don't
know,
know. There's a bunch of rare earths like that.
yeah, there's all these rare earth minerals now that they've discovered that they're utilizing in all these different places that are extremely valuable. It's just how are you
You don't
going
you
to
don't you don't
tie
want that.
those things up into a currency
Right. Your
instead of
currency,
utilizing them for moving forward with industry and
right.
society?
Right. And again, only 10% of gold is used in industry. It's 80% for silver, and it's probably close to 99% for copper. So you don't want to use those in currency.
Right,
That'll hamper your society. If you want to have a high quality life, you can't be wearing out all the silver in your pocket,
right.
chasing a 1950s gold standard system. I mean, sorry, like that's not going to work. Um, doesn't mean that silver is not an undervalued industrial metal. I own it for that reason,
Mm.
but I don't think it's even good for people if that returned as money. So that's kind of what we're proponing with Goldback is, hey, there's enough gold in the world that everyone could literally use Goldbacks and there'd be enough money.
Mm.
It could work. I mean, it could fit, and maybe there's a better solution out there, but I mean, it's
What would
it's
the
it's an idea.
what would the mining have to look like to provide the world with gold-backed currencies?
There's enough gold above ground now to
Is
do it.
there? Okay.
Yeah. If
All
you
right.
add up the face value of all the currencies that are physical fiat kind
Mhm.
of cash like things,
Mhm.
there's enough gold that if it was transferred into Goldbacks, and you got to remember there's 100% premium, for the manufacturing, there would be enough gold.
Mm.
And if the banks did the same thing, and I'm probably thinking too far ahead, if they did fractional Goldback reserves and still offered credit and things like that, I mean, Goldbacks could fit. It could solve a lot of problems.
Mm.
So, I don't know if it's going to be a grassroots effort. It doesn't hurt, the more people that spend and use Goldbacks, the more it supports solutions that people like. So, I don't want to discourage anybody from doing that. But I also think it could be foreign central banks looking at the Goldback and starting programs like it. And if it works well in Zimbabwe,
So I was going to
that's going to
ask, do you
get,
think it would catch on in a third world country before it would
I,
catch on anywhere
I think
else?
so.
Yeah.
I think it'd catch on in a third world country.
Like
And then
Venezuela, like you said, Zimbabwe. Yeah.
sure. And then, people could say, hey, that's a solution,
South
and
Africa is technically a third world country. You do know that, right?
oh, it absolutely
Yeah. Well, that's where my wife's from. That's why I make that joke. Because ay, ay, ay. Come on. You stop with this. Stop. 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 Catch on. Come on. You there?
Yep, I'm here.
Sorry about that, man.
You got another cloud.
Yeah, I was fighting with this thing last night too. So I don't know. Yeah, no, I was making that joke about South Africa being third world because that's where my wife's from. She's from South Africa. And
Yeah,
they
I've got a
were first world up until about 94, and then it didn't end
I've
well for them.
I've got some employees from South Africa, and they tell me the same thing. South Africa, believe it or not, used to be a nuclear power.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure.
So are you married to an African American then?
Oh, well, she's not a citizen. She's a green card holder, but she likes to say she's African American.
That's great. I like to tell people that Elon Musk is the most successful African American.
He probably is. There's probably little doubt about that. Um, okay, so you don't seem to have, I mean, I understand like part of the reason you're doing what you're doing is you see the flaws in the fiat currency. You don't seem to have a lot of vitriol towards fiat. Um, do you who do you see as your main competitor in business when it comes to creating the Goldback?
That's the beautiful thing. I don't see anybody else doing what I'm doing. We lock down our manufacturer so they can't, we're not going to have a competitor for the gold back unless it's a central bank. So, I'm trying to do this as kind of like a pilot program. And I could be wrong, but I mean, maybe the gold back isn't a good currency, but it de-risks it if a foreign central bank wants to try it out as a currency if I do it first.
Mm.
Right? It's like I'm doing free research for central banks because who owns all the gold? You know what I'm saying? I mean, central banks own at least half
China.
of the investment grade gold that's around. I hope they use it. I think this could be great for them. Um, it's better for the gold back if I don't hate on central banks. If I
Okay.
give them the benefit of the doubt and say, hey, maybe you guys painted yourselves into a corner. This is a possible way out.
Mm.
That gets my project very different treatment than, hey, y'all suck. And Jeremy's got the solution. Like, what you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I guess I came into the conversation expecting you to see central banks as a competitor. And so as we've
No,
talked, I've realized like that's not the way you're approaching this subject at all.
no, not really. Not really.
Well, you get that a lot with like the crypto audience is they look at the central banking as competition.
Yeah, and I see myself as offering an alternative, I guess, to fiat currencies and things like that. But I don't think there's anybody that has wholly and totally replaced all of their spending with gold backs over fiat.
Mm,
People still need to pay their taxes and their debts and things like that. But there are people that use gold backs all the time. They give them as gifts and tips, and they'll try to barter with them. And I think that's really great. And the more of that we see, um, lends a lot of power, I think, into a liberty-oriented currency. I think it could end up being the future of currency in 50 years from now. I doubt they'll be called goldbacks. It'll probably be every central bank doing their own version that's like a goldback, and maybe they'll settle on like a 200 or a 300% premium or something because gold itself might be reevaluated higher when it has a monetary value again.
right.
That actually might drive up the price of gold itself if people are using goldback like things as currency. So it'll be exciting to see. It's really fun to pioneer something. Um, I'm trying to look for what some of the downsides are and some of the things that could be done about them. I'll tell you this, unlike fiat, it costs money to make a Goldback. It costs 8 cents to make $100 bill.
Mm,
If you wrinkle up your $100 bill and tear it up and get it all dirty and gross, you can go to the bank and get another one and it's not a problem. The same isn't true for a Goldback. You really have to kind of take care of your Goldbacks more so than you have to take care of your fiat, right?
yeah.
It's not to say that Goldbacks are fragile. They're actually tougher than dollar bills, but still, it requires more responsibility, but yeah, it's just kind of one of those things where you have to look at the challenges of, okay, what are the actual technological challenges and hurdles of why it would be difficult for Goldbacks to be a global currency, and how can we solve those problems intelligently to make it less risky for somebody else to come in and do it better someday.
Mm.
So
Well,
it's just kind of, I guess, knowing my place in history.
yeah, no, I appreciate your approach. Like you said, you got smacked upside the head when you got all excited about your cryptocurrency adventures. So, um, you kind of have this measured approach to it where you're like, I'm not gonna get over my skis. I don't want to get ahead of myself. I want to kind of ride this wave and kind of steer it and just slowly find and maneuver my way into this market. And I like the way that you're doing this because it's probably you're a lot less likely to get seriously hurt in the long run doing it the way that you're approaching it.
I I think it's important to try to take an approach that doesn't inflate the ego too much. I feel like people that do see early success with ventures that they're in, or if it's in money or fame or whatever, people will get such big egos that they can't respond to new information coming in,
Mm-hmm.
and they're more likely to make really tragic mistakes.
Right.
And I saw that with the cryptocurrency, even the executives leading it, people got really, wide-eyed and excited, and it's like it didn't even work, and it's like it's so easy to happen. Um, so I'm very leery of that this time around.
Yeah. I think that's kind of what my hang up is with crypto is because there are so many people that are fanatics. And it's like,
Yeah.
is this a cult? Like,
Is this a cult? Am
I
I
don't want
joining
to
a
be
cult?
I don't want to be part of a cult. like I'm cool if you got something that's like has some value to it. I don't want to be in a cult though. So,
Yeah.
especially if I have to pay my way into the cult. No, you pay me to join the cult. you know. But all right. Well, we've been going about an hour. I'm
Sure.
I'm sure you're a busy dude. I want you to plug whatever you got to plug, man. I want people to keep up with you and keep track of what you're doing.
Well, thank you. I appreciate you having me on my show, so
Yeah, this was
that was
fun.
great.
I would love to do this again sometime. I'd like to catch up with you as you start presenting more states and you're starting to see a little bit more traction because
When
I
I
know
when I
it's a
got when I got
slow.
more to say,
Well, it's
sure.
not even that. No, it's just a slow venture. And like,
Sure.
I think the conversation we've had is a great kicking off point
Sure.
to have future conversations.
No, and yeah, no, that sounds fun to me.
All right. Well, what plug away, man? Where are your websites? Where can people find
Oh, sure.
Goldbacks and
Yeah,
all that good
if you
jazz?
want to learn more about Goldbacks, just check out goldback.com. You can sign up for a newsletter if you want. We got a list of retailers that sell Goldbacks. You can buy them all over the place. I want to say about a third of metals dealers are selling Goldbacks now. If you can find them, I guess. Um, so I don't know. I told you I'm running out of these things, right? I don't I
You
don't really
did.
push them that hard, do I?
You did. No,
It's
it's
kind of nice
fine.
because I don't have to be like a walking ad for these things. It's just
Yeah.
they kind of sell themselves.
Well,
I mean,
I mean, what better product can you have other than one that sells itself?
yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
people will Goldbacks are shiny and they're pretty and they like to show other people and then they want them and most of the people in Goldbacks aren't even precious metals people. They just really think they're gorgeous and they want them.
And who doesn't want a Willy Wonka ticket?
I don't know, right? For $4. No kidding.
Yeah, right.
So, so yeah, they make really great Christmas gifts. So, you know, you'll get a
That would be a
huge
great
reaction.
stocking stuffer.
Mhm.
Unfortunately, you probably wouldn't get it before Christmas.
You might, depends where you shop. You know, I don't know when this, I don't know when this podcast is going to air, but we've got, you know, we've got a couple weeks still.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I plan on getting it out there next week. So
Yeah, you probably got enough time. Most
yeah.
people will ship in 2 or 3 days.
Yeah. All right, man. I'm going to end the recording here.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
All right, brother.